Now let's turn to South Africa. The country is holding elections today, their most competitive election in 30 years. As we speak, the last few votes are being cast. All day, millions of people lined up to cast their ballots. Almost 28 million people were registered to vote, and they came out to decide the future of the country. The final results will be out in a few days from now, likely by this weekend. But we'll get an idea before that. Partial results will start trickling in later tonight. Everyone in South Africa will be watching with bated breath to see one thing. Will the ruling party, the ANC, still be in charge?
This is the day when South Africa decides on the future of our country, who should lead the government of South Africa. And I have no doubt whatsoever in my heart of hearts that the people will once again invest confidence in the African National Congress to continue to lead this country.
President Cyril Ramaphosa certainly thinks so. He's trying to secure a second and final term in office, and he's projecting an air of confidence. But it may not be that simple. The ANC, the African National Congress, has been in charge since 1994, since the end of apartheid, the institutionalized racism that had plagued the country for generations. Apartheid ended thanks to the efforts of the ANC and their leader, Nelson Mandela. As a reward, the party has won every election since, because of the goodwill that their struggle earned them. But 30 years is a long time. The younger generation may not remember the old struggle. They're more concerned about today's problems, like shockingly high unemployment. It is the worst in the world in South Africa. 33% of South Africans are unemployed. That is 1 in every 3. It's worse when you look at youth unemployment. It's at 46%. So will young South Africans still vote for the ANC to reward the party for its struggle against apartheid, or will they punish the party for failing to provide them jobs?
I grew up loving the ANC because of how they fought for the freedom we have today. They fought, and in 1994, we were able to vote when we couldn't before. That is why I voted for them all these years. But this year, I've changed because of the problems with the ruling party. And so, I have since become a member of the MK party.
Unemployment is not the only issue. Crime is also skyrocketing. The rate of murder is at a 20-year high. Someone is killed every 20 minutes in South Africa. The dire situation has put a dent on the ANC's popularity, so for the first time ever, it's expected to get less than 50% of the vote. And this was an opinion poll from a week ago. It showed the ANC winning 43.4% of the vote. That is still higher than everyone else, but it's still a massive fall from grace. In the last election, the ANC won about 58% of the vote. If it wins just 43% this time, it means the party is losing a quarter of its voting base. And it would put the ANC in uncharted territory, because for the first time, it would then have less than half of the vote. It would not be able to form a government on its own. Instead, the ANC will have to look for partners, which means any one of the major opposition parties could become kingmakers. The ANC's biggest rival is the Democratic Alliance, or DA, the party that has been coming second since they were formed in the year 2000. The DA is expected to come second this time as well, with about 19% of the vote. Not enough to topple the ANC, but enough to become a key coalition partner.
If we don't get to the 50% plus one mark, we will obviously look at the lie of the land, but I don't believe that keeping the same bad people who've got us into the situation, that have pushed 42% of our country into the unemployment queue, that have led to 30 million people living in poverty.
That is some tough talk by the DA leader, but we'll see if their tune changes after the results come out. If not, they aren't the only ones that the ANC could partner with. There's also the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, the party that is led by Julius Malema, a former ANC youth leader who was expelled in 2012 over disciplinary issues. So he went on to form his own party. Malema might be willing to let bygones be bygones, but his support won't come cheap. He will want important government portfolios. The third option is almost an impossibility. For President Cyril Ramaphosa at least, it seems impossible. It's the MK party, led by former President Jacob Zuma. Now, to put it mildly, Zuma and Ramaphosa do not see eye to eye. They've been rivals since the 90s. And Ramaphosa rose to power at Zuma's expense. So Zuma is not likely to prop up his greatest foe. But Zuma's MK party is currently polling at third place. So a desperate ANC might be willing to tie up with their former president. All that the party would have to do is throw Ramaphosa under the bus. All these parties are potential kingmakers if the election goes as opinion polls have predicted. But there are two other scenarios. If the ANC loses more votes than expected, then the kingmakers could decide to usurp the throne. An alliance of opposition parties may be able to oust the ANC, but it would be a coalition of fundamentally different parties. And that would likely lead to chaos. The last scenario is that the ANC does better than expected. It manages to hold on to power, either on its own or with the help of smaller parties, who won't be able to push the ANC around. If that happens, then Ramaphosa will have dodged a bullet. But he will understand that things need to change. The ANC will have to overhaul itself, bring in jobs, stamp out crime, end corruption and inefficiency. That's the only way for the party to survive. If not, this election will mark the beginning of the end of the ANC. And we've been tracking this election very closely. For more on this, stay tuned to Firstpost for our continuing coverage with my colleague Alison Lagrange.
South Africa's May 29th elections. Millions are voting today to choose the next National Assembly.
There was a start of change in the country.
Now, I have just voted at this polling booth right here in Durban. South Africa's May 29th elections.
There was a start of change in the country.
We are on the verge of history.
I am standing here at the forefront of change where voices echo the call for action. The nation grapples with an unemployment crisis. As South Africans prepare to cast their votes, the question looms, will the winds of change usher in a new era, or will the legacy of the past maintain its grip on the future?